Why is it every day that I wake up super early to go test a lens and it dumps snow overnight? Why does it keep happening to me? All quiet on the streets this morning. It's beautiful out. I mentioned in my last video that it hadn't really felt much like winter around the Denver Front Range. Today was not one of those days. All right, well, what are we doing out here today? Well, I'm out here to review this. Oh, hang on. I am out here to review this. Yes, this is the OM Zuiko 300mm f4 lens. And the fact that I even have access to this lens today is somewhat of a miracle. I will explain more about that later. But anyways, I am here today at Cherry Creek State Park this morning. Man, it is snow overnight. It looks beautiful out here today. So I am excited to throw this thing on my OM1 Mark II and go out and see what we can capture with it this morning. Because again, I have a very brief time with this lens. Oh man, but I'm happy. So let's go see what we can find. So I am recording this on MLK Day, and I'm thinking about when I know this is going to be posted, which will be in February. And I know when this posts, I will be in Panama in probably 80 to 90 degree rainforest. So very interesting when this goes up where I'll actually be. So anyways, but man, beautiful. Cold, but it's beautiful. So let's take some shots. As I shot these geese, I noticed some still had snow on their back from overnight. A good first test for this lens. The image was good. And likewise, I thought the lens did a great job capturing that water motion as this goose was bathing. So yeah, 300mm on micro four thirds, that gets us 600mm equivalent full frame, which, man, is really just a great wildlife, to me, sweet spot. So 600, 500, I think those are the two real good sweet spots for wildlife. And, my Sony, I shoot a 500mm prime, the Sigma. And so to now have this 600 without needing any teleconverter, we're just straight up today. This really is a good sweet spot. So, yeah, I am at a different spot of the park where I am seeing a ton of birds out on the water. So let's go take a look. These northern shovelers kept me entertained for a little bit, but eventually the cold air in my freezing hands forced me back to the car. A couple things to know about this lens is, first off, this lens is not new. I thought it was only like 4 or 5 years old until I realized that this lens turns 10 this year. This is a 2016 release. And yeah, this lens is already 10 years old. Another thing to know about this lens is it's not cheap. Just because it's 10 years old does not mean that the price has come down. The price has actually gone up. But we'll go over that in a second. Yeah, this is a $3,200 lens. 10 years later, $3,200. Brand new on this lens. In the used market, I think they're going around for about $1,800 to $1,900. For ones in good condition. So there's definitely cheaper ways to get it. But the reason why the price has only gone up over time is originally this lens retailed for $2,500, at least in all the research I've done. But as you know, and the way, especially if you live in America, the way we do business in the world these days, things are more expensive. So that's why this lens now has gone up because of tariffs. $3,200. Sheesh. Would you pay $3,200 for a lens that's already 10 years old and that you knew retailed for $2,500 not that long ago? Now, it's a tough one. So let's go finish shooting things and we'll see if this is actually maybe worth it. There's something really satisfying about being the first tire tracks in fresh snow. I then stopped to photograph one of my only raptor encounters on the day, or at least this is the only one that didn't immediately fly off as I stopped my car. You're seeing some tracks here in the snow. Another reason why it's fun to come out to do wildlife in the snow is you can see what's been scurrying about, and these are coyote tracks. I know that not because I'm an expert tracker, but I actually saw the coyote, and there he is. I'm gonna take his photograph. And I was able to take this still, which in my opinion, objectively, is one of the better wildlife stills I've taken in quite a while. In fact, we'll go over this image at the end of the video in a little bit more detail. I continued down another snowy trail and came across this flock of American robin, and I really thought their orange color made them contrast well with the snowy trees. I've had a few people comment on some of my videos about my Bronco beanies that I wear. Yes, I am a big Broncos fan. In fact, I have season tickets. They are third generation in my family. My grandpa had them since the late 60s, and then they passed down to my parents, and now have passed to me. So, and this will be a fun clip to record because as the time of this recording, I went to the Buffalo Bills game, the playoff game, just a couple of days ago, where the Broncos won. So I am going to the game coming up this Sunday against New England. But then, if they happen to somehow win and go to the Super Bowl, I won't be here. I'll be in Panama. So when this video posts, I will be in Panama, and we will have known what has happened. So this is my recording to my future self. Go Broncos. Even with the backup quarterback. Man, that really sucks what happened to Bo Nix. But, we'll see what happens, and we'll see if this ages well. So, Broncos, if you're in the Super Bowl, I hope that you have been victorious. One of the other things I mentioned earlier about 600 kind of being one of those wildlife sweet spots. And another reason why I like sort of a prime or a fixed lens length is, I don't know, it just makes it one less thing to have to worry about. And when I first got my 500mm prime for my Sony, that was the first prime lens I ever bought. And I was like, am I going to miss not being able to zoom around or zoom in and out on a lens? And the answer for me is no. I've really gotten used to being on a fixed length, and it doesn't bother me. And oh boy. Well, there they all go. It's a lot of geese. But, yeah, anyways, where was I? Oh, yeah, fixed length lenses. Yeah, it doesn't bother me. Got used to it, like it. And here at my last stop, I wanted to walk out at Pelican Point because recently there's been some unusual visitors for Colorado here. It's always interesting seeing an out-of-season Dunlin foraging in the water with snow in the background. And likewise, this lesser yellowlegs is definitely an odd one for this time of year for Colorado. All right, seeing those Dunlin out there is pretty cool. Definitely a very unusual bird for Colorado in the winters, those Dunlin. In fact, as I was coming back to the car, another birder was on his way down, and he's like, "Are the Dunlin there?" And I'm like, "Yep, the Dunlin are there." He's like, "Yes." So it seems like a good amount of birders coming out to see them. It's cool. But anyways, I have hit most of my usual kind of stops for when I come out here. And so yeah, I think that's probably going to be it. I'm a little surprised and disappointed by the lack of like raptor activity out here today. Normally on these snowy mornings, you just see them all over the place in all the trees and just out hunting. So we'll keep an eye out as we make our way back around the park on our way out. But yeah, I think that's going to be it. So time to go home and pull the files and see how they look. And I'm sure I will jump in here and show you some of them, some of the good ones, and maybe some of the bad ones. So, but yeah, that's it for me here at Cherry Creek State Park. Hello. So that was the 300mm f4 that I finally got my hands on. And I mentioned in the video that it was a miracle that I got it. So I'll try to explain how that all happened here in this fast as I can, because it was a crazy story. So I knew someone here locally who had the lens. And so I asked her if I could borrow it to go shoot a video. And she said, yeah, of course I would, but I just had rotator cuff surgery, so I'm at home all messed up right now, trying to like heal up. And so I was like, no problem, I will not bother you on this lens. And she said, yeah, you should try Mike's camera though. I think they demo lenses out, so you could probably just demo it. So I called Mike's camera. They said they don't demo lenses anymore. They used to, but they don't anymore. And then I mentioned the lens, the 300 OM, and the guy was like, nobody's going to have that lens. But then he got a hold of his OM rep who was coming from California to Colorado and was going to bring the lens to let me use. So I was going to get to use the OM like copy of the lens. But then that trip fell apart and he ended up not coming to Colorado. So then the lens got canceled again. But then they called me back and said that the Boulder store had the lens, and if I could drive to Boulder, I could borrow it from them and then go out and shoot for a day and return it to the Denver store. So that's how I got the lens. Woo! Yeah, so I almost had the lens like 3 or 4 different times and it fell through, but then I did get it. So, and I do apologize. I am sick as a dog right now, which sucks. So I am going to try to get through this. But anyways, that's how I got the lens. I got it for that morning, and I got to go shoot with it out at Cherry Creek on MLK Day. That was Monday, and then Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. I've been bedridden sick. It is now Saturday. I feel terrible, but I'm still trying to get better because I am, yes, going to the Broncos Patriots AFC Championship game tomorrow in the freezing cold. Winter is here. Like I had mentioned, I had said it didn't feel like winter in Colorado. It does this week. So anyways, let's take a look at some of the images, and I would love to give you my feedback on the lens because, wow, I think it is pretty good. I really like it, and not because it won't be for the reasons why you think. So let's take a look at some of the images. Okay, let's take a look at that coyote shot. I mentioned in the video that I thought was one of my favorite wildlife stills I've taken in quite a while. And yeah, I'm really impressed with how the lens and the camera handled this scene. So let's take a look here. This is a pretty dynamic shot. We've got a lot of things going on here. First off, we've got 3 kind of layers to the photo. We've got this tree in the foreground. Then we've got the snowy hill with the coyote on top of it in the middle. And then we have another tree and our sunrise sky as our background. So we've got 3 distinct layers. And the camera and the lens did a very good job on focusing on the element that we really wanted. So it nailed the coyote, and it nailed that whole medium level of the snowy hill. And I just loved it because the snow is undisturbed and fresh. And so I was really impressed that it handled that shot well. And I mean, if you look at this, there's a lot of like tall weeds and a bunch of stuff like that, grass, that could have really pulled the autofocus away from the subject, but it didn't. And the other thing I really like about this photo, and the reason why I think it's one of the better wildlife photos I've taken before, or taken in a while, is that if you notice the bokeh, like the blurred out on the tree in the foreground, and also that tree in the background, it's very unique looking. Like, I sort of feel like with a lot of these wildlife lenses on modern cameras, like the Sony, Nikon, Canon, they're very almost robotic lenses, right? So you're going to get great shots. They're going to be tack sharp. They're going to be blurred out, backgrounds and great bokeh, but they all really look the same. Like if you showed a wildlife photo and said, hey, was this taken on the Sony 600, the Canon 600, or the Nikon 600? You would just be like, I don't know. They all kind of look the same. So it's really nice to take a photo with a lens that has a distinct character and feel to it. I don't think I could have taken this image with the same results on my Sony. I think the image would have still been very good on the Sony, but I think it would have not had a ton of character. I think it's, like I said, it's almost very robotic, right? So that is something that I noticed about this lens, and I will show you a few other images here where I thought that not only were the image good, but it actually had a little bit of character. You know, what really doomed me this week with being sick is that not only was I sick, but then I had to go into the doctor to get my yellow fever shot for Panama. And the doctor gave me the shot, and he was like, oh, by the way, this is a pretty heavy shot, so you may not feel great the next day or so. And so throw that on top of the fact that I was already sick, and oh man, just absolutely brutal. I hope you guys are staying healthy this winter. I rarely get sick, but this winter and fall, I've just been getting hammered with. Anytime anyone gets sick, I'm gonna get it too. So it's been a bummer. But anyways, back to the photos. This is a photo of our Dunlin here, and again, there's nothing really remarkable about this shot, like subject-wise. Like it picks up the birds and makes a sharp shot. That's great. What I really like about the shot, again, sort of a unique feel of this lens, is the colors. And what I really like about this shot, and because it really helped me in sort of my goal of what I try to capture when I'm doing photography. And sort of my goal is I want you to see my photo and feel like you're there with me. Like you were right over my shoulder and we were taking a picture of this rare Dunlin. And I think this photo does that in the way that it captures the colors. Like it's a very immersive photo. It looks cold, doesn't it? And yeah, it was cold. My fingers were freezing as I took that shot because I'm an idiot and I didn't bring gloves that day. But I think the lens does a great job of capturing like good colors that make the scene feel more immersive. And it's just not a sterile photo, again, like you might get out of some of the more modern telephoto lenses. So I really like that. Last one we'll look at is this up close shot of a robin. And that's one of the things I always hear about Micro Four Thirds is it's only good if you're up close and you've got good light. And it always struggles with depth of field. And so this was pretty good light and I was pretty close, and the lens really locked in, and I just, again, I think the colors are just so sharp. I think there's really good depth here, and I mean, I think good light helps all cameras. It's not just a Micro Four Thirds thing. But this was another shot that, again, I just thought was really impressive, and again, I really liked the colors. So let's talk about the other thing that I had brought up in the video, which is the price. And I had mentioned that it kind of felt like a roadblock to me. But as the week has gone along and I've thought about it, I've sort of changed my mind about that. So let me show you what I mean. So yeah, $3,200, 10-year-old lens. That's steep. But what are the alternatives? And again, another thing that I don't think I pointed out in the video was that 300mm, even though it's 10 years old, is still considered a pro lens. Like, that is in their pro line, which means you get some premium features that you wouldn't find on other non-pro lenses. So you get that weather sealing, you get the premium like build of the lens. It's basically designed that you could use it to hammer in nails, put it on your camera, and it would still work perfectly. You could film in a hurricane, and you may not survive, but the lens would. So you pay a premium for the pro line. So if that's too expensive, $3,200, what are your alternatives? Well, this is what I have. This is my pro line lens. This is the 50-200. As you guys know, I bought myself and I've been out using. And this lens doesn't get me to 600 natively. This lens was $3,700. That's more expensive and doesn't get me out to 600. The other pro lens is the big boy, the 150 to 400. And let's take a look and see what that retails for. $9,000. Which, you know, let's be honest, unless you're rich or you do this professionally, as for like a business, I'm never going to own this lens. I mean, this is $9,000. I don't have that kind of money. So all of a sudden now you look at a 600mm Pro lens, that $3,200, that's the cheapest of the three. So even though $3,200 is expensive for a 10-year-old lens, it's cheaper than the alternatives. And I think that's sort of what OM has basically, after 10 years, you would think, well, aren't they going to refresh this lens? Like, aren't they going to make like a version 2 of the 300? And I think OM has basically said, hey, if you're a wildlife guy, if you're a sports guy, we've given you the two lenses that you need. You've got this one and you've got the big one. And that would cover any range of wildlife or sports that you would need. So I think OM has made it clear that it's like, yep, those are your two lenses to get. Don't worry about that 300 because we're not going to make another version of that because we have that range fully covered now in these two new lenses. So that's the take. And so $3,200, with the way this lens takes photos, I'm not a player at $3,200. I don't think I could do that. But am I a used guy for like $1,700? I might be a player there. So anyways, that's my take on this lens. I was really impressed. I really, really like the images. Again, it's nice to see a lens still make unique images that don't look so sterile and generic and actually get a little bit of character in there. So that is my take on the lens. It's awesome. Maybe later in this year, once I get home from my trip and I kind of, take it easy a little bit, maybe I might start shopping around to find this lens used, but we'll see. So anyways, that is it. Thanks for bearing with me while I'm sick on this review. And Panama videos are next. So, oh man, ready to go. So thanks. See you in the next one. Bye-bye.